Hey guys, back again. Had a much cooler day today and got quite a bit done. Although when I look at what I've done, you think, gosh, how come it's taking you so long? But this is Acute Sharpening System Part 2, really, the beginning thereof. And I'm working on the parallelogram, and those are the parts I've been trying to prepare. And I thought I'd run through where we're at the moment. This is partly in case anybody else happens to go for one of these and want to see what somebody else did. Some of this might be quite boring, in which case hit the stop button. So here's a sort of reminder. I may have shown this one before, if there's enough light on that. That's the parallelogram system. So what I'm going to do here is I'll bring the camera down a little bit and go through the book, just looking at the pieces I've prepared with comments as appropriate. Alright? Now this may or may not work, and as I've said, it may well be way boring. But the parts I've been working on here, there's a misnaming on here. I'm going to tell Gary about that. It's a little bit confusing. But we've got the top and bottom of the part that clamps to the table. Now the top piece here, which is this, has to be milled. Right, that's a fairly straight milling job, apart from setting up the part suitably. And the bottom, just a 6mm clearance hole. And the top part will take, well, we come up from the bottom into the, I'll keep going out of frame here because I'm zoomed in quite a bit. So that piece, you've got the pair of parts there, and then the milled shelf that has to come out is the part that will grip on the side of the table. We've got two 4mm by 0.7 holes threaded. You'll see what they're for in a minute. Then we get this funny shaped piece. Alright, and that is part of the, shall we call it, the business end of the parallelogram, where you put your tool holding blocks, etc. Then we have this piece, and that's yet got to be milled. And that piece is, let me see if I can find it. That's this large chunk. And if you look close now, you can see there's a scribed circle. Alright. We've got to do a radial milling job on that. I don't think I'll do it in the lathe. It'll probably go in the mill. I'll have to think about it. Depends whether I can mount it really suitably in the chuck. All these small bits are fiddly. You know what it's like when stuff gets bigger. It somehow seems easier, as people know who make model engines. So we got that fat bit. That circle I showed you was for that, and then the top here, which is not actually milled, it actually has two parts that fit on, which gives some adjustment. And that is, if I can find them, these two little guys here. Oops, where's that one? There we are. There's that one, which is the movable jaw. That's the fixed. And that has, there's a hole in that which has not yet been reamed. and I've no idea how well these are focusing. Of course they go like that. That small hole here, that's got to be reamed. It takes a 3mm locating dowel peg. Alright, next we've got the what they call the workhead top plate, and that is this one here, which is full of holes, and these holes are taking those little half moon pieces I just showed you. Deep countersink in the middle, and then almost there. Right, we've got those little transfer bars for the parallelogram and the parallelogram centerpiece. Alright. Okay, now those arms, these are 10mm, 10 by 3. You won't be able to see it now because I've got some Sharpie black on here because I had to slightly relieve. These are acetyl bushes, and they are marked as 3.1 high. They go in a 6mm hole with a 4mm centre. Well, the 4mm centres were very tight 4mm, and they had to be relieved slightly so they'll pivot freely on the little bolts. Alright, that's... oh no, I had to make a couple of... the other thing that's mentioned, that piece, not to scale, it is a standoff spacer for the links. I mean, they're so tiny. They weren't included. 5mm high, 10mm wide, 4mm bore. Mind you, most of what I did working on them was converted to imperial inch measurements. What I'm going to do now is to just dummy up a few of these pieces. I'll put a few screws and stuff in and basically see what happens. We have no idea yet. Okay, that's quickly dummied up here. Just to remind you again, because what I'm trying to do is show things as we go. So that again is the exploded and the schematic of the parallelogram. The idea of it, of course, is once this is oh, I'm going out of frame. Very good at that. Once this shelf is milled out, this is what will clamp you to the table. All these little bolts, at the moment they're all sloppy and slack, because in the final analysis each of these little bolts will be Loctited into the respective part. I would imagine a semi-permanent, enough to get some grip on it so that they stay put, and then the workhead, the business end with the tool block, which at the moment I can't get that in. I've got to make a slight relief. This is the movable way, they're referred to as ways. This one needs a tiny little relief milled underneath, and normally the tool block would go in there. There's position there for a locating pin, registration pin, so you can probably get the general idea. With this fixed here, you can go right round any position on the table. You can change the angle of this, which at the moment is not correct, of course, because each of these pieces has got to be radially milled so that they engage in the centerpiece. At the moment it's just done up loosely, But once the milling is done, of course, you can rotate any direction. So the combination of angles possible is near infinite, really. So there you go, that's it for there. The next step is getting the milling done, as and when I get to it. So once that's done, I'll show you this again in a more permanent form, and we can probably mount it to the table and see where we go from there. I tell you, these are fiddly. I don't know, and also this steel is still pretty darn hard. Quite a job, having to be careful tapping and finishing. Right, well, it's in theory milling time, but I'm actually going to try and do some of this on the lathe. But there's a problem. Mr. Bozo paid me a visit, and this piece here, which is the top workstation, what do they call it? Workhead top plate. I was pretty careful drilling that, and I'm pretty sure it was, I'm sure it was spotted. So we drilled that carefully, but before I drilled it, I scribed, you might just see that circle line, I scribed that before drilling. I thought, well, that'll make life a bit easier. But when I set this up on here, originally just using a nut on the back, it was turning way out. Dial gauge was showing a huge discrepancy, and this outside surface here is not brilliant. It's got the odd little mark here and there, so the dial gauge is not dead smooth, but quite adequate. So what we did, and this is a fix. Well, I say Mr. Bozo, yes it was, but whether it's down to my error or whether the spotting wasn't quite right. I suspect the spotting, actually, because the error was more than I would have expected otherwise. Anyway, what I've done, you can't see it from there, I'll show it to you when I've worked on this piece. In the back here I've got a piece of, I think it's about inch hex, and I bored that and threaded it 6 by 1. So this stainless steel bolt is going into the hex, which is set back from the front of the jaws. It's tightened right up. This has been progressively tightened with the indicator on here, and turn it round, tap, 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 until it's true. The reason I could true it is because I have had to make what was a 6mm clearance hole slightly oval. And this is a pain in the you-know-what, because even if I can get this relief done on here, it's only a 35 thou deep to make a register for this piece, which goes in the middle of the workhead. So I'm going to turn this down. Hopefully it's pretty secure, so I'm going to have to take very gentle cuts because this is hard material again. Go down to my scribe line, which is now not perfectly on center, which makes me think the spotting wasn't on center. So I'm going to take it down to one point there plus and measure it, and gradually work my way in until I can get this just to go on. Alright, so nothing ever goes smoothly, does it? Just to prove a point while I'm working on this, and I'm doing very careful light cuts, being as careful as I can. You'll see that the outside is pretty good. I think I was close on it by about 1.5 to 2 thou. And this center, I've got quite a way to go yet. I'm playing very safe. I don't know whether I can get a measurement off it yet. Yeah, there's quite a lot to go, but just watch the watch the bolt in the middle. Yeah, and I say this is pretty tough material. You can see how eccentric that is. Well, when you drill a spotted area, you shouldn't normally get much of an error, maybe 2 or 3 thou if you're unlucky. So we've got to cope with that, and the problem is at the end of it, I'll show you the other side. It's already countersunk, so I'm going to have to fiddle with that. Right, that feels okay on there. Broken those edges, so look, let me show you what I did. As I say, you've seen that damn bolt running out. So this is what I did here. I took this piece of hex and bored it out, threaded it, parted it off, and then in the chuck, if I can demonstrate, that's how I had it. So the chuck was done up pretty tight, and then I took this up against the chuck, and look at that. I had to get all that float in it to get it running true. What the other big piece will be like, I don't know, and we'll find out. The trouble is now I've got the problem. I'm zoomed in a bit much for getting my hands in there and staying in frame. Hang on, change hands. Let's take my big hex nut off. Seemed to be the only way I could do it, because one thing I've noticed in recent times, and I confirmed it when I had this set up with just an ordinary nut, these jaws, I mean this is a very old chuck, and it's a bit bell-mouthed, and I'm going to have to bite the bullet and do a grind. This is possibly one reason why it doesn't always centre very well. So there's my countersink, but now you see that plus sign. Well, yes, you can see it now. I had to enlarge the hole this way, so it's far from round, and somehow I'm going to have to machine that countersink across a bit, and this is still this hard material. What I might do later, I think I'll put it in the mill, find a ball end. I think I've got a largish carbide ball end, and try and just extend that countersink. I mean, it may not be very pretty, but I've got to be able to make sure that the bolt will find its centre, because now we have a register, you see, so that'll be some messing around. Anyway, I'm going to see what the big fat piece is like, see if we can get that set up and do something similar. Well, I think we're going to have a bit of fun with this one as well. This one wasn't spotted, it was set up for centre with about, let me see, 90 degrees twice, which means you often get that slight double line. And then I did 45-degree crosses, and I finished up with a pretty darn accurate centre, which is where we drilled. Now, even so, I don't think this is perfectly round. Arguably it may need turned down a bit, I don't know. The specification is 40mm, but these pieces, oh, 1 minute, I'm wrong. Specification's 50mm, but the piece is 51, which I guess means scope for a bit of finishing, but I'm not really too worried about the outside. And also the piece that we're working towards is, this piece is, just check, now that is 50, that is 50, so arguably the piece I did just now and this piece want to be turned down to tidy them up, which is not the easiest of jobs with a piece this shape. I'm not sure I shall bother, but anyway, the point is this isn't running very true, but from the centre pop I used my dividers to scribe a circle. You probably can't see it now, I'm cutting just to the outside of it for the time being. I want to get down to depth, which is 3.5mm. We'll go down to 135, and then we'll sort out the diameter here. And this bolt, well, behind the bolt is a shake-proof washer, which is not sitting dead central. The bolt itself, I'm not sure whether that's even totally symmetrical. So you'll see when I get it running, it doesn't look too good. But my main concern is to get this relief and the centre. That's what I'm concentrating on, and I'm taking small cuts because this stuff's so darn hard. I haven't used oil on it very much. I think it makes a lot of difference. I'll take another 2 and you'll see what I mean. You might notice there's a slight cut on the return, which is hardly due to spring and that, but I am aware from something else, which I'll show you in another short video sometime. I was tidying up some threads and I have a feeling I've got to spend a bit of patient time on my gibs. The compound has got a temporary lock on it, but the cross slide, I think there may be a little bit of slop in that, which is noticeable with intermittent cuts. Anyway, I'm going to carry on, get this down to depth, and you'll have to put up with seeing this thing wobbling. There's not much I can do about it. I did mean to mention, incidentally, I've just had a slight movement here. I don't think I was quite tightened up. I'm using a facing cutter with a slight angle change, whereas the other one I cut with a conventional side cutting. But either way, this material's nasty. Well, I'm gradually getting down, but it's got to be slow. I didn't mention because it's out of frame, but I've got my 2-inch DTI on the way, on the far way, monitoring my progress on advance, because I'm only really going 2 to 2.5 thou. Look at this crap. I mean, it's possibly a function of my tool as well, but yeah, this material, I'm not sure what I can identify it as. I'm down to, I'm just going to check a minute and see. We should be down to, let me see, 107. 106. So that's quite a bit more to go. I'll just show you though what it's like cutting, even with tiny cuts. This mounting, of course, I mean, I don't, laterally it's not going to move much, but this bolted into the big nut here, not overconfident about it. So I'm really only taking these light cuts. If I take anything too heavy, it doesn't feel good. So just showing you what the hell's coming off here. I mean, look at it. God, yeah. Not nice. Give me a bit of lead bearing any time. We've got a little way to go yet, not far, probably another 15 thou. I just thought I'd show you that when it's cutting. Once I've gone to depth, I'm set up for a stop on the way here, down here. So once I'm down to depth, I should just advance to get my diameter there, because I'm plus at the moment. I think at the moment I'm heading for 1414 and I'm 1485, so there's quite a bit to come off that middle to get the final fit. Okay, I haven't broken the edges yet. Excuse me. I think I'll do that with a file actually. I get a better result than trying to use a tool on it. That's not bad, but there's a bit of a burr there. That feels pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. Except for the hassle of getting that far. Okay, so I'm going to break those edges and I'll take this out. This has got to have one more hole yet for a 3mm peg. I haven't done that yet. Otherwise, we've got to turn this over, and so we've got to that stage, and underneath is a milled slot, which is that one. And there's that little 3mm hole I've got to do later. And that milled slot underneath is to take this, which is what we use for tool sharpening as against milling cutters. So that goes, that is to be used in that slot. That specifies 20mm, but in fact this is 20.5, so I shall make it to 20.5, which actually equates to, don't know whether I've converted yet. I've got to get it to imperial, you see. Alright, anyway, that's it for the moment. Once I've got this out, I think next time we'll be over in the mill and try and get a little bit of milling done. Time for a break. This parallelogram phase, part 2, is taking, as I expected, quite a lot of time. I've got to the end of the initial messing around, which was the sort of lathe section, shall we call it, so I'm going to call a halt there, put that together, call it part 2A. If you stayed with it through some of the rather tedious bits, thank you. And I'll do the rest on part B, which is probably going to be as long again, if not worse. So stick with us, guys, stick with us. Thanks for watching.